All right, people, good morning. It's time for another fun one. Nick Bellore. I think there are a lot of people that would be heartbroken if we didn't have Nick Bellore on the team in 2023 for reasons that don't necessarily involve what happens on the football field on game day. But however you want to put it, Nick Bellore is a free agent. We need to figure out how much is it going to cost to keep him, and should the Seahawks keep him. So Nick Bellore is kind of a unique player in the league right now in that he basically, you could almost call him like a three-way player. I mean, it would be more accurate to call him a two-way player because a lot of players play one side of the ball and special teams. But Nick Bellore plays a little fullback, just a little, plays a little linebacker, again, just a little, and then he plays a lot of special teams. So a player like that, a little harder to evaluate. Let's take a look at some of the snap counts he's gotten over the last several years. There it is. Okay, so like since he got to Seattle, he's played probably, yeah, he's played 100 snaps on offense. He's played 9 snaps on defense, all of which came in the most recent year, by the way. And then he's played over 1,200 snaps on special teams. And you can actually see in previous years with other teams, he actually did play a decent amount on defense. Like 2016, he was actually a starting inside linebacker for them. But since he's gotten to Seattle, he's basically been a fullback a very small percentage of the time, a linebacker almost never, but occasionally, and mostly a special teamer. Now, nevertheless, as a player who does wear 3 different hats, even if 2 of those hats are really small, there's definitely value there. But what is that value? I think that in order to try to judge this, you have to look at Nick Bellore purely as a special teamer and then kind of go from there, adding maybe just a little bit of juice because of the fact that he is your fullback and he is your backup linebacker. So a couple years ago, after Nick Bellore made the Pro Bowl, he got a 2-year, $4.5 million deal with the Seahawks that is now expiring. So 2 years, $4.5 million a couple years ago. This was after the COVID year, by the way. So the cap had actually become depressed significantly. So based off purely that, you would think that whatever deal Nick Bellore would sign now would probably be bigger. However, he is about to turn 34, and his physical abilities are probably starting to diminish. He's been in the league a long time. And that might make me inclined to believe he's going to take a little less because it's not like he's made the Pro Bowl. So this is tricky. We're going to try our best to decipher it. So let's go back to the list of linebackers in the league because that is basically Bellore's main position in terms of what he can expect to get paid. And we're going to blow past all these top linebackers again because, of course, we are, because Nick Bellore has played 9 snaps on defense the last few years. And let's start the examination here by looking at Jordan Hicks here, because Jordan Hicks, he's a semi-prolific player. He's played a lot over the years, and he was the starting inside linebacker for every game for 3 years for Arizona, putting up pretty decent numbers, had a season where he had 150 tackles, good starting quality linebacker. He went to Minnesota, turning 30, to be a starting linebacker and had a year where he played in every game. So Jordan Hicks's contract was just 2 years, 10 million, so 5 million per. So logically speaking, you can't expect Nick Bellore's contract, whatever it may be, to be more than this, right? Because Jordan Hicks was being brought in to start. He was being brought in to play over 1,000 snaps on defense. Bellore would be brought in to be a special teamer. So the value is just, if you're comparing it, trying to make an apples to apples comparison, you're bringing in an established, well-known commodity at linebacker like Jordan Hicks. That should be worth more than a guy who is just a special teamer 99% of the time. So I don't think it can be higher than Jordan Hicks. Let's go down to what I think would be a intelligent comp to make here. Tyler Matakavich, and I talked about him a little bit in a previous video. Tyler Matakavich, off of his 2019 season with the Steelers, got 2 years, $7.2 million with the Buffalo Bills. So Matakavich, Matakovich, so I was close. If you take a look at the way he played in Pittsburgh those 4 years, He basically didn't play on defense. He played a little bit. Over those 4 years, he played less than 150 snaps on defense. He was a special teamer. And Buffalo, looking at him purely as a special teamer, as you can see, he also hasn't played very much defense in Buffalo. Looking at him just as a special teamer, gave him a contract that was worth about $3.5 million per year. Call it 3.6. So I think we're kind of in the ballpark here. Now, obviously, there's been some increases in the cap, but also keep in mind, Matakavich was 27 when he signed this deal. Bellore is going to be 34 pretty soon here. Last guy I want to look at here real quick is a guy who was with the Packers and signed with the Niners. It is Oren Burks. He's a guy who's in a somewhat similar position. Signed a 2-year, $5 million deal with the 49ers this most recent offseason. Oren Burks, you can take a look at his snap counts and you can see he doesn't play very much on defense. He's mostly a special teamer. He did play a little bit more than somebody like a Nick Bellore on defense. He actually did log almost 500 defensive snaps, but he was not looked at as a defensive player. He was primarily a special teamer every year he was in the NFL, and he was also primarily a special team player for his new team, the 49ers. And Oren Burks got 2 years, $5 million. So this is a little hard to unpack here because Bellore is considered to be a good special teamer, and we had a really good special teams in 2022. We don't want to mess that up. And remember, Oren Burks came from the Packers. The Packers last year had a terrible special teams unit. So if you were looking at Oren Burks through that lens, you would probably say, yeah, that's not really good. So I think you got to go a little above a guy like an Oren Burks if you're trying to fairly evaluate Bellore's value. So I'm looking at what Matakavich got several years ago. I'm going up a little bit from it, but I can't go higher than Jordan Hicks. That just doesn't make any sense to me. You're paying Jordan Hicks to be a solid starting linebacker on your defense. That has to be worth more than even a good special teams linebacker. But at the same time, we are talking about Bellore also adding a little bit of value as a fullback and as somebody who can play a defensive linebacker. So I think that the right number for Nick Bellore, when you add all this stuff together, would be a little bit below this. So I'm thinking like 2 years, and I'm thinking something like $8 million. It's a little more than what Matakavich got a few years ago. Maybe you even go to 4.5 million a year. And I know that sounds a little bit, really? We're going to do this for a guy like Nick Bellore? But if you believe he's a really good special teamer, which I do, I'm looking at what Tyler Matakavich got 4 years ago for his good special teams play. I'm looking at the fact that Bellore is also giving you some reps at fullback. I'm also subtracting a little bit because of the age. Like, you see how hard this is? You see how hard this is to really pin down? I feel like the number needs to be about 2 years, $8 million. I do. And maybe the age is going to save us a little bit and Bellore just wants to hang around in the league. Maybe he ends up taking like a 1 year, $1.5 million deal. But I think if you look at what some of these other special teams purely linebackers are getting, I think that you have to say, like, he should be getting more than Oren Burks, right? That makes sense to me. So yeah, I'm going to say 2 years, $8 million. Am I okay with that? Yeah, I guess. I don't want to mess up our special teams, but it is kind of icky, but I'm just trying to be objective here, guys. All right, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think I missed here. I think it's possible I did, but adding in all the factors and looking at some of these other contracts, I just think that a good special teams player who is also giving you a little bit of offensive value and who is also a clubhouse favorite, somebody that people really like, and then you factor in the fact that this contract was signed during the COVID cap constriction when the amount of money teams had to spend actually went down because of COVID, it makes sense to me that he should be getting a little bit of a raise. I know maybe it won't be as much as I'm thinking. Maybe it'll be more like $3.5 million a year, but hard for me to believe he's going to take this contract again or take less. So yeah, that's Nick Bellore. That's a tough one, but I think you're going to have to pay a little bit of money to keep him around for all the reasons I just described. There maybe you could make an argument to say that hey, he's getting older. His special teams value is going to go down as his foot speed goes down. He's not going to provide the same abilities on that end. He hasn't made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years as a special teamer as well. I guess there might be a little something there, but to me, I look at Nick Bellore and I go, probably should get a little bit of a raise. And looking at what other players get, that's all I can do here, guys, right? Understand that when I'm trying to evaluate what a player can expect to get on the market, I can only try to compare him to similar players and judge from there. But yeah, this one's weird. Let me know if you have a different take here. But I'm going to say 2 years, $8 million for Nick Bellore. And I'm indifferent. I guess I would do it, but I'm hoping that maybe I'm overshooting here. See you guys later. Go Hawks.